Hey guys, gals, and non-binary pals, and welcome to a new episode of the Fangirl Freaks Out Podcast. It's your host, Alyssa, and if the sound quality is different, it is because I'm trying something new this time around. It's only for this episode because I am currently out of town. I'm visiting my hometown, visiting family right now, as it's the 4th of July weekend, and so I don't have access to my usual equipment, so I'm trying to see how this would work using my phone. So that's what we have for right now. But yeah, so this week, I think this is episode 9, but this week, because of recent development with having read the latest chapter of the My Hero Academia manga, I started to think, because this latest chapter had me in tears, which the manga has been for a while anyway, but I was starting to think about all the times that My Hero Academia has made me cry. So I figured, what better thing at first. Too, the funny thing about it is, like, what if I talked about all the times My Hero Academia has made me cry as a joke? But then I started to actually, like, think about how many times it's made me cry, and I had to write a list, and it's currently at 15, but as I record this, I'll probably think of more times I've cried to this series. So yeah, that's going to be this week's episode. The times that I have cried at My Hero Academia, or because of My Hero Academia, or whatever, however I end up titling this video episode. But yeah, so fair warning, there will be manga spoilers and probably spoilers from like season 4 if you haven't watched season 4. But other than that, yeah, so there's going to be major manga spoilers. Oh, also of the like main manga, and then there will be spoilers for Vigilantes as well. But yeah, so the first time that My Hero Academia has made me cry was the story of Eri. Eri's story just in general is like very sad if you really think about it. And just first of all, seeing Eri in general was like, oh my god, this precious child. But then like when like she runs into Deku and Mirio, and you see like the look on her face, especially like how tight she's holding on to Deku, and then like when she notices Overhaul start pulling at his glove, and she like that look of fear on her face, and just the fact that she has to react quickly and she knows what that means, and just just seeing like kids in that sort of environment and situation where they are so young but they're like already having to think maturely about things, if that's making any sense. But I mean, no, because I relate to that on some level. But yeah, no, just her story, like in general, like Eri is a precious being that must be protected at all times, and she deserves the world. Speaking of Eri, the second time that My Hero Academia has made me cry. Well, okay, most of this probably won't be in like chronological order of the series, but the second time My Hero Academia has made me cry is when we saw Eri's smile. This probably will be an emotional podcast episode as well. But the second time I cried was when we saw Eri's smile at the cultural festival. I think that's what it's called, in the school festival. But yeah, like just seeing her smile for the first time, and like, because she didn't, I'm trying not to get too emotional, but like she didn't know how to smile beforehand, and just to see like the smile just to see her smile and smile so brightly out of pure just happiness and joy. And that's probably like her first time like ever it is her first time, we know that, like her first time like ever experiencing something like that. And I'm like, she's a child who's like 7, I think, at this point. She should have already had something like don't get me started on Ari, because Ari just I love her, and I would protect her with my life. But yeah, so I know that was like so like a heartwarming moment. These next 4 are gonna kind of be a little bit darker and talk about character death, so beware of that if that's something that is touchy for you. But the next time, or this, I think this was this would have been the second time, like for real, that My Hero has made me like actually sob. Like if we're going chronological order, but like number 3, this is actually number 1 on my list, but like the third thing I'm going to talk about is Sir Night Eye's death. I'm like, I didn't really even care for Sir Night Eye as a character, but like seeing him, I don't know, there was something about that moment, like his final moments, where it was like, I don't know, it pulled at the heartstrings, and I got emotional. Like, I cried. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, there was just something about that moment. And, like, seeing Muriel, I think, break down was what really got me. Because, like, he really, truly, like, admires Sir Night Eye and, like, looked up to him. And, like, to see his mentor die, that hurt. That hurt a lot to see. And like I really felt for him, and so like I cried, like I cried as if I knew this man in real life and I had just lost him. So yeah, but to me too, like that's just the type of person I am, is like I get emotionally I get attached to characters very easily, whether I really like them or not. I get attached. So the way I feel about characters is like I know them personally, even if they're fictional characters. So, yeah, like the whole Sir Night Eye thing like really hurt for some reason in the moment. Well, it's a death, so like of course it hurts. But yeah, so next on the list, and this is where we really get into manga spoiler, like big spoiler territory. So if this is like something that you really truly like care about, not wanting to be spoiled about, please click away. I will give a 3-second countdown before I start talking again about it, but yes, major manga spoilers ahead. So 3, 2, 1. Okay, so the next time that My Hero has made me cry was when Twice died, and the way it was set up too is like it made you really like understand and feel for the guy. And Twice, which if you listen to my episode where I talked about like my top 5 like favorite characters in each of the 4 categories that I created, Twice is my favorite villain because of the way he's like set up. He's not really a bad guy. He just wanted a place where he felt like he belonged, you know, and the League of Villains became like a family to him and stuff. And so like even if in the war arc, because that's when he dies, like you see in that moment, like Hawks even sees that like he's not a bad guy and that he has a genuine heart to him. And so like he tries to redeem him, but like just the fact that like Twice was willing to die rather than like, you know, go against his family that he's created, his like chosen family. And it's just, I don't know, that moment to me was just so emotional. And the fact that like and I know a lot of people like hated on Hawks too for that moment, and it's like I get it. Like, I didn't even really consider, like, the fact that, like, Hawks as a hero was killing a villain, like, in the moment. Like, I didn't even, I was more so focused on the fact that Twice was dying. And the fact that, like, his clone returned, oh my god, don't even get me started on that part. Like, it kills me because at first I didn't even realize that was a clone. But, like, the fact that he used the clone to make sure that Toga got her handkerchief back before his final, like, that was his last final breath, like, wish was to return it to her and thank her. And, like, I feel for Toga when she, like, breaks a little bit after that. Like, I get it. Like, they were close, you know. They're like brother and sister if you really think about it. Like, the League of Villains is a family of their own. And so, yeah, seeing Twice die, like, ooh, that got me. I'm not even gonna lie to you, it got me. And speaking of deaths during the war arc, Midnight, when, oh, it still hurts to talk about. Midnight's such an underrated character. I love her, but, like, no, because this is gonna be me a majority of this episode. It's just me, like, making sounds of me trying not to get emotional and thinking about things. But Midnight's death, especially too when it was like, at first it was like unknown, but then we see the students like like sobbing and looking at, like, holding her mask, because, like, in her final moments, I didn't even realize, like, that was her final moments, you know? Like, I didn't realize she was dead until, like, the one chapter, I forget what chapter it was, where they, like, talk about the fallen heroes during the war, and Midnight's picture was there, and I was like, no, not Midnight. And then, oh, what hurts even more about it is the fact that that's, like, because, okay, so I'm, like, I absolutely love and adore Aizawa and Yamada, who is President Mike, if you don't know, like, him by his name. But, like, I adore their friendship, especially because they're, like, friends from high school, and they're friends with Midnight as well, like, from high school. And I'm like, that's the second friend they've lost, which that's another spoiler and a great segue into the next character death. This might be my last character death one. Yeah. Oboro, the story of Oboro and, like, his death, and, like, the fact that they were just second years in high school. Like, that's what, 16, 17 age range? Like, it hurts. And, like, that whole story of just Oboro, like, he dying on the field, working and stuff, and, like, the Rooftop Boys, I plan to talk about them in general in a future episode, but, like, just the Rooftop Boys in general, and, like, them losing a friend and, like, one of their best friends, and, like, I don't know, oh, my bad, I just, like, knocked my own mic out of my hand, but I don't even, like, have, like, I didn't read that far into Vigilantes. I kind of, like, looked into it myself because I was curious. Like, I kind of figured, or no, because I read the manga and, like, they talk about, like, Oboro, because, spoilers, Kurogiri is a Nomu with Oboro's body being the core. And I already knew he died, but, like, I was like, how did he die? And looked into it. Because at the time I was very busy with school, so I didn't have the time to read it that far into Vigilantes, but I do plan to read Vigilantes. I've read a few chapters, but yeah. So, anyway, that's besides the point. Got a little sidetracked there, but, no, so I read into it, and when I was reading it, I legit sobbed. I cried, because it's like, one was protecting children, like, when he died, and the fact that like Aizawa thought he was like okay the entire time. He's like, he's gonna be okay, like Obero's okay, like. And then this is a separate thing on the list, but it ties into Obero's death. But like the second like I cried over the fact that Obero died, but then by the time I stopped crying, I continued to read about how Aizawa like was fighting the villain afterwards, and he kept hearing Obero cheering him on. And then like afterwards he's like, yeah, like that's why he thinks Obero's okay, is because he keeps hearing Obero's voice, which it's Obero from beyond. And he then like his realization afterward that Obero is not okay and not alive. That broke me. And the fact, oh wait, hold on. And the fact that like his goggles, like his iconic yellow goggles, or like they were originally Obero's goggles that he let him use, and he still uses I'm just. And then what killed me was like after that was a horrible use of the word, especially after talking about deaths. But no, what's funny to me, or like what like was ironic and like hurt me more, but like at the same time like was like the like laughing, crying at the same time moment for me was like after learning that Midnight had died. My first thought was like, do you think Obero is up where, or like in the afterlife, whatever you believe in? But like, do you think him and Midnight are chilling, just joking around like old times? Because like it's known that Obero like would flirt, I think, with Midnight, or like just just they were all like chill or friends with each other in high school. So I'm like, do you think now that they've been reunited that they're just chilling and like looking down on their friends and like acting as guardian? You know what, I'm making myself sad just thinking about this again. But it's just, there's something about that, I can't. I'm gonna stop talking about it now before I do get sad. Anyway, on to the next thing. I don't even know. Oh, okay. So, like, to kind of go back to Twice and, like, talking about, like, how he sees everybody as, like, a family and all that, and stuff. And another moment that, like, made him my favorite, villain. And, was when, in that moment in the manga where, he overcomes his like psychological like trauma of like never knowing if he's the real one, and it's during like the fight between the League of Villains and the Liberation Army, and like I don't know, just that moment, like watching or seeing, reading, whatever you want to like say, like seeing that moment of him like just, I lost my mic there for a second, my bad, and because I'm on my phone I cannot edit this out like I would any other audio podcast. But no, so seeing him like kind of just like have that moment where he overcame that like trauma of the past and whatnot, and just become like a stronger person within himself, and like really being out there to like help, especially too like the fact that it was in the moment of like seeing Toga again. This like goes back to the idea of like how he sees them as family, and like just seeing Toga hurt, and like him trying to fight his best to protect her and get her to safety and whatnot. And And yeah, and just, I don't know, there was like something about just seeing him overcome that and having that moment of clarity that like kind of brought me to tears, not gonna lie. I'm it's been a while since I've read it, but I do remember like just being emotional reading that and witnessing that moment. And it was like a turning point for him. And it, because like I said earlier, Twice is like he's not a bad guy, other than the fact that like he's like helped kill people and stuff like that, like obviously. And not me over here being a villain sympathizer, but I empathize with people so easily, and like characters and stuff, and like I said, I get attached to characters very easily. But like it's like, I don't know, just witnessing that, and like seeing Twice and like understanding him too from the perspective of like he felt like he didn't belong, and people made him feel horrible for like his issues and stuff, and they were psychological issues, mental issues that he really like couldn't help, and people like ostracized him for that. And then he found this group of people who accepted him for who he was and how he was. And he created this chosen family amongst them. And it's just like, I don't know. And then seeing him overcome that struggle, and still, hello? There was a loud someone revving a motorcycle outside. But anyway, enough distractions. But yeah, no, so like, I don't know, just seeing him overcome that in that moment, and like using his renewed strength or whatever to like help out his family. It was just a moment for me where I was like, okay, I very much like, I don't know, I just got emotional. Okay. It's like I said, it's been a minute. Okay. Since we're on the topic of the war arc, because that like quickly follows, or I mean, I've already talked about it a little bit, and like it quickly follows like the battle between the League and the Liberation Army, English. The next a moment that made me really like tear up and cry and just get emotional again. Like, I'm just an emotional person, but like this moment really just got to me, and that was when Bakugo, I think the chapter is like 285, but when Bakugo like because we all know Deku like in the beginning was like saved Bakugo from the sludge villain, and said like his body moved on its own, like it moved on his own accord, without thinking too much about it. And essentially this moment is like Bakugo returning the favor in a sense, and in that like his body moves on its own without thinking, and like saves Deku from being like impaled and possibly killed by Shigaraki, I think, in the moment. And I don't know, there was something about like that parallel and just that moment that I was like, oh my, like, because here's the thing is like I wasn't a big Bakugo fan in the beginning, and then obviously like during the joint training and all that, like I started to see his character development and like his growth as like a character in general. And I mean, if you saw my video where I ranked my top characters, like he's number 3 on my list, and that's why, like, just seeing his growth. And this is part of like the reason too where I saw him truly grow as a character, especially in his relationship with Deku, like his long-time relationship with Deku, excuse me, from like children to now, and just how he's changed. And yeah, So that was one moment. Speaking on Bakugo saving Deku, I might as well talk about the chapter that inspired this episode topic. Chapter, what was it, 318? Yeah, 318, which at the time of recording this is the latest chapter that was released. And we see, so if you don't know what's happening right now, and if you're still here despite the manga spoilers and you haven't read, what's happening right now is that Deku left UA and is trying to find the league on his own with like the help of some pro heroes who know, some know about like One for All and some don't. But he left the heroes behind and is now trying to do his own thing, and he's been fighting nonstop, covered in like dirt, mud, grime, his own blood, because he's been injured multiple times and he hasn't given himself time to heal. And he also like has control over all of the multiple quirks he has, and can also use One for All at 100% now. But he's like, in this chapter, like, first of all, like, the fact that he's already gotten to a point where, like, people can't even tell he's a hero because he doesn't look like it, because he's so just torn down. And it hurts, too, because I'm like, he's always said that he wanted to be the hero with a smile that people can rely on, and he just wanted to be a hero with a smile. And his smile has since been gone since leaving UA, and it just, that thought hurts me. And then in this moment, he's this chapter, I still haven't like fully recovered from it, but in this moment, he's attacked, like he meets a villain who has a quirk similar to Shinzo's, where he can control people. And so, like, a horde of civilians are being controlled and sent to attack Deku. And, of course, Deku, being a hero, doesn't want to hurt any of them. And he's, like, he's trying to think of a strategy to where he could get them, like, because, like, Shinzo's quirk, like, you can get out of the mind control if you have some sort of force or whatever. But, like, Deku, with now having 100% control over One for All and being able to use it at such a high thing, he's like, well, anything's gonna hurt them and I don't want to hurt them. And so he's at his, like, hasn't slept, hasn't eaten, is at a point where he's about to just give up. And the fact that, like, he still is just, even in his lowest moment, he's still thinking about other people and is just willing to be, like, self-sacrificing, which can be good and bad in a hero, but, like, just seeing Deku, like, just so torn down, hurt. But then Bakugo comes in and he's his hero, and he finds him, and just, I don't know, there was something about that, like, seeing Bakugo come in and save him, and just at his lowest, when he was ready to give up. And it brings me back to, like, during the final exam when they were working together against All Might, and Bakugo was, like, had kept fighting with All Might in order to allow Deku to get past the gate so that they could pass. And, like, Bakugo was, like, or said that he would rather give up or whatever. And all that, and, like it, I don't know, it just brings me parallels to that, and the fact that, like, Deku ended up coming in and saving Bakugo so that they both can, like, leave together. And this kind of is, like, a lot like that, where Deku is at a point where he can't keep fighting and he's ready to give up, and Bakugo comes in and he's like, well, we don't know what he's like because the next chapter isn't released, and it won't be released until next week. So I don't know what he says, but he comes in and saves Deku essentially, and he's just like, and he tells them like, guys, I found him, and into a phone, so who knows who he's talking to, but like, I don't know. And then the fact that they're in Kamino, which is where Deku also saved, like, Deku, Kirishima, who else? Todoroki, Momo, and Ida all went to save Bakugo when he was kidnapped. Like, the Kamino incident. Like, that's where they're at. There's so much things, like, so many things about this chapter where it's just a lot. And I, like, literally, I cried for 3 straight hours after I read it. Like, cried so much so that I, like, ended up passing out for, like, I think 12 hours afterwards. Like, I drained myself of so much energy crying from that chapter alone. There's just so much, because it's just the build up to that moment as well. But yeah, so, kind of rewinding back, because I'm looking at my list again. Rewinding back, though, to the war arc, because this is post-war arc, that I was just talking about. But another moment that got me in tears during the war arc was, Aizawa, and just, like, how, like, like, hearing anybody sit there and try to say, like, Aizawa doesn't care. Don't get me started. But, because I could go on and on about, like, Aizawa as a character in general. Like, he's probably, if I were to rank all the characters together as a whole, Aizawa's gonna rank number 1 over everybody. Like, that's my favorite character. And, yeah, no, if you're, like, you cannot say this man does not care about his students. Because he does. So much so that while his eyes are literally being dried out and he's, like, struggling to keep fighting during this war, he's worried about his students. He's thinking about his students, making sure they're okay, like, hoping that they're okay. And he's like, I can't give up. Like, I gotta see this through the end. Like, we gotta bring this to an end. I still have so much to teach them. Like, I still need to see them grow into the heroes that they want to be. And so much so, too, that when he's hit with a quirk erasing bullet, he does not hesitate to chop off his leg so that it does not affect him. You cannot tell me this man does not care about his students when he was so quick. Like, he did it because he was thinking about them. He did not hesitate to say, bye, leg. Like, and I don't know, just that moment in general. And even when he was in the hospital after that, and Hisashi Yamada, not Hisashi Midoriya, but Hisashi Yamada, President Mike, is sitting there and trying to tell him, like about midnight, and he's like, I want to know about my students. How are my students doing? Like, that was his first worry in the hospital. Like, he's over here in a hospital bed, probably done lost an eye. I don't know. Like, his eye was covered up in bandages, but probably done lost vision in one eye or lost an eye or something. Like, who knows? He hurt his eye, lost a leg, and some more, and and lost a friend, another friend from high school, and he doesn't even care. He's like, how are my students? Please tell me they're okay. Like, he cares about this. That's not even the point of this podcast. I did cry, but, like, yeah, I probably have to do an Aizawa, like, just me ranting about Aizawa and Aizawa love and appreciation podcast. I'll have to see if I can get a certain friend on for that. I don't know. I don't want to pressure them into, well, it's not pressuring them, but anyway, that's besides the point. But yeah, so Aizawa cutting his leg off, though, and, like, just thinking about the kids the entire time. Speaking about the war, the fact, and speaking about the kids, is the fact that they're kids fighting in a war. I'm like, these are supposed to be heroes in training. Like, they don't even have their actual heroes licenses. And if they don't get their heroes licenses after that, I'm fighting somebody. Like, I will jump into this story and fight whoever I need to fight, because they deserve. You had kids, literal children, who are still in high school training to be heroes, acting as heroes in a war. I have no words. Speechless. And like, I don't know, because I flip-flop between crying when thinking about it, because I'm like, they're kids. They should be worried about, like, does their crush love them back or like them back or whatever. Or like, oh my God, I have this big exam coming up. Like, I need to study for it. Like, those are the things they should be worried about. Not am I going to live to see tomorrow? Are my friends okay? Like, did they survive? Like, that's okay. I just went from being like angry to like emotional again about it. But like, that's what they should be worried about. And like, I don't know, just the thought of that like hurts me. Like, thinking about the fact that they are kids. They're 15, 16 years old. And they're fighting in a war. I mean, granted, yes, I know, like, parallel to real life, like, people do go in different countries, too. Like, it depends on, like, how the age or whatever that they draft people. And, like, kids have fought in wars. And regardless, like, of real life, fake life, alternate realities, whatever. Like, I don't think kids should be fighting in wars. That's period, point blank. Like, that's end of discussion type of thing for me. Like, kids should not be made to act as adults. They should be allowed to act as kids. And when kids are forced to act as adults, it breaks my heart thinking about it. But yeah, so thinking about the fact that, sorry, I just like, saw a text message from our group chat, but my family group chat, that's besides the point. But yeah, no, oh my God, speaking of kids, I have a soft spot for kids, if you couldn't tell, but, let's talk about Tomura Shigaraki's origin. Or Tenko Shimura. My bad. I completely butchered his name right there. Tenko. Little Tenko. Baby Tenko. I think I'm pronouncing his name right. But Nana Shimura's grandson. The little boy who wanted to be a hero. And who grew up with a dad who just hated heroes because of the fact that his mom gave him away for his own protection. And then he accidentally killed his entire family. And when he really needed help, no one was there to help him. And like, that hurts to see a child struggling so hard. And of course, All For One just had to be the one to find him. But I'm telling you, like, I'm like, Shigaraki could have grown up to be a completely different person. His name wouldn't have been Shigaraki. We wouldn't be sitting here calling him Shiggy. Like, he would have still probably been Tenko Shimura. Had a hero found him, had somebody found him, the perfect person to have found, to have raised him or found him would have been Aizawa, but like, no. Again, that's for another time. But yeah, no, like, just his origin story, and like, him and Izuku would have been great friends as kids had they known each other. I feel like they would have bonded over their love for heroes and wants to be a hero. And and Shigaraki's quirk, like, if he had a good grasp on it, trained to have a grasp on it, and not just allowed to create mass destruction, like, he could be a hero. And I love like all AUs. I say all U's because my brain goes alternate, so but anyway, AUs like Shiggy as a hero, because that's what he originally wanted to be. But like seeing this child, this broken child, who just happened to fall into the hands of the wrong person, just, it hurts. Speaking still on the topic of children, we're getting to the end of my list. These last two are like have to do with backstories and stuff like that. So the first backstory, though, I want to talk about is the Todoroki family, because that bunch, we need a spin-off of we need like a keeping up with the Todorokis. Like, they have enough family drama to have a series as successful as the Kardashians. Like, I need it in my life. I need a spin-off of them. But like, because after we get like a little bit of like the backstory, because after it's revealed that Toya Todoroki is Dabi, or Dabi is Toya Todoroki, like he's still alive, and like we see Endeavor like have a moment of clarity, and the whole Todoroki family like comes together, and Shoto's like, I have to be the one to defeat Toya, Dabi, whatever you want to call him. Like, he's like, us as a family need to tackle this together, though, and whatever. Like, and then we get a glimpse into like the backstory of the Todoroki family, like back to when Endeavor or NG and Ray got together. Like, see, like, cause it hurts too, cause in that moment it's like, okay, I mean, granted, it's like, you're kind of a douche for like forcing, well, not even forcing, because Ray, well, actually you learn like Ray agreed to it. She had no problem marrying NG, and it's like, well, still, like, you wanting to enter in a quirk marriage, like, kind of isn't, like, what are we? Like, you know, like, it sucks, but like Ray entered it willingly in order to like help her family, but it still sucks that she was put in that position, you know, like, I don't, anyway, but like, in the beginning though of their relationship, he didn't seem like a bad guy, you know, other than like the fact that he kind of turned her into like a baby making factory. Well, I mean, after like, because at first Toya got to a good age before there's like a year in between. See, I don't think Fuyumi was born because of like Toya being a failure, because he would not have been old enough, because Dabi's 24, Fuyumi's 23, so like they would have had to like had Fuyumi before Toya had his quirk. Because before we even see them have like that moment of like, oh, you're a failure, like NG having that moment with Toya. I'm getting completely sidetracked. That's not even what I'm supposed to be talking about, but that just goes to show you how my brain works. I was supposed to talk about the thing that made me cry, which was a bit later in the backstory, and I just went completely just explaining the entire backstory. That was like all just spoilers. I am sorry. I mean, I did give a manga spoiler warning early on, but Jesus, anyway, let me get to the point of why I brought up the Todoroki backstory. But no, so there's a moment in the chapter where we see NG at like peak, just horrible father, and like just seeing his kids, Shoto being torn away from his brother and sister, crying, and Fuyumi and Natsu are sobbing, but like Fuyumi's also like holding Natsu in a way that like protects her or protects him. And there's just so much about that moment that was like, oh my god, like I'm gonna cry, like seeing these kids in this very like toxic situation. And like, I mean, we all knew that Endeavor was a flaming bag of garbage and that like he was abusive in the past and all that, but like seeing it though, like you see it in action. Like, it's one thing to hear it, it's another thing to see it. And seeing it, like, and then to seeing like Ray go from like this like sort of calm, collected person to like slowly breaking over time. There's just so much in that. And just the Todoroki family, I'm telling you guys, like, there's just so much there, so much material to work with. But like, I mean, it hurts too at the same time to like dig into their past. But they're present, like them now, and just seeing like, I don't know, I think it would be funny to see like Shoto and Natsuo like work together to give Endeavor like a whole bunch of crap for like just being just a bad dad and like not caring for their dad at all. But and poor Fuyumi having to sit there and like try to keep her family together. But yeah, no, that's just the background of like, even though we already knew like Shoto did not have a good upbringing, seeing how it affected everybody in the family, I guess, is like really like makes it real, like just how toxic the entire household was, and not just like or how he was to his entire family and not just Shoto. Like, it really makes it real for you, I guess. But yeah, so on to this last topic of things that like made me cry and get like emotional. So I know a lot of people don't like Hawks, like, or some do, some don't. It's very like mixed match, especially right now with like, if you're an anime watcher, you don't know much about Hawks or whatever, and all you see is him being like kind of a bad guy right now. But if you read the manga, like, you know a bit more about him and stuff. And this kind of goes back to this idea. This is like a reoccurring theme now that I'm thinking about it. And within the show of like just kids not being allowed to be kids and having to deal with things a little too young. Which, I mean, is true to life too. Like, anyway, this isn't meant for me to get personal. Anyway, so with Hawks' backstory, learning that and seeing that, and just this poor little child who was not only did he have like a dad who wasn't great in the slightest. Like, we knew his dad was well, actually, I guess you don't know if you don't read the manga, but his dad was a villain in the sense that like he was a criminal, and criminal equals villain apparently in this world. But he was a villain essentially, and he was kind of a douche. Not kind of, he was abusive to like his wife, Hawks' mom, and Hawks. And Hawks who we see admires Endeavor because Endeavor was like one of the only heroes that he ever saw. Like, he's like, are heroes real? And then he saw Endeavor in action, and he's like, so that was like his first realization of like, oh my god, like heroes are real, like they can save people, and essentially like sees him as like a sort of like his light at the end of the tunnel, essentially, in like his story. And so then when his dad gets captured, which I think it's Endeavor who actually captures his dad, which again, like his abusive father is captured by this hero. So like now he sees the source of his pain being like he's saved from that. And but then his mom isn't that great either, and like makes him a child, provide almost for the both of them. And then the commission, the Hero Safety Commission or whatever, the Public Hero Safety Commission, I think is what the full thing is, come in and like bribe his mom for him. And it's like, you're treating this child as an object, and of course she's gonna agree. And so yeah, and then Hawks essentially is trained from a young age to be the perfect hero and put through all that. And now he's like essentially owned by the Public Hero Safety Commission. And just the fact that he's a bird in a cage, essentially, if you want to use that parallel, that metaphor. He's a bird in a cage who wants to be set free, but he can't. And I think that's where his like mentality of like, I want to live in a world where heroes don't have to do anything comes from, is because like anyway, but yeah, like just his whole backstory too, which again, like I feel like all these characters have really sad backstories, and I'm just like, is Horikoshi okay? Like he's the one making these stories. Has anyone checked on Horikoshi Sensei? But yeah, no. So that kind of wraps up. Like, I got sidetracked a lot, which I've been saying since the beginning. I'm very scatterbrained, and my train of thought like gets sidetracked a lot. And I will like have a point where I want to talk about one thing, and then I start talking about something else because of that one thing reminds me of it, and then I'm like, wait, that wasn't even the point that I was supposed to be making. And then like, yeah, anyway, which we saw a lot during this episode. But yeah, so that's essentially the end of my list of things. I'm sure there's more of times that I've cried while watching and reading My Hero Academia, but like these were the ones that I could think of when I compiled a list of all the times that I've cried. But yeah, I'm sure there are many more tears to come, especially once this next chapter releases. And that's, I think, is it for this week. Again, I'm sorry for like audio issues or quality, or I don't even know if I'm going to be able to upload this. I'm still trying to figure things out. Again, I'm not in my apartment where my equipment for like my normal setup is for these episodes, so I'm having to make do with what I have. But yeah, so that is all for this week. Hopefully I'll see you guys next week. Peace.